I think if I would have been doing this all alone, I would have had a much harder time because it really can be pretty discouraging. And so having that connection with other job seekers, I think was really important.
Welcome back to Answer the Call podcast, where we help Christians faithfully discern their calling and land a job that's aligned with it. We do that through a variety of ways, including free resources like this podcast, but also one-on-one and group coaching. So today I have a former coaching client with me, ready to share her career story. I mean, the word to describe Christina's story is persistence. This is a woman of the Lord, and she ran into so many obstacles. Sorry, not to put it on blast, but we'll talk about it all. But she just kept pushing through and pivoting where necessary. And now she sits in front of me with an amazing job at an amazing company. So again, this story is about persistence, discernment, trusting God's timing, all of the things. And as her story was unfolding, I just kept saying, I can't wait to share this on the podcast. I can't wait to share this on the podcast. That day is here. Christina, welcome to Answer the Call.
Thank you so much. I listened to the podcast and obviously, have been a client. And so it's been so fun to even just catch up on what's going on with the lives of you and Kelsey lately through the podcast. But I'm really excited to be here sharing my story. I've heard so many other people's stories and, just praying and trusting the Lord's provision for me as well. So I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you here. So let's just start at the beginning. Can you talk about, before this career transition, we started working together, I guess. How'd you, first of all, what job were you in, or kind of job, and how did you know that it was time for your next career move?
Sure. So I heard about Called Career through some foster parent friends of mine. And when I reached out, I was a single, well, I am a single foster parent of two little kids at the time, and was working part-time as an executive assistant, kind of office manager, basically because that's what the kids and the needs of the family needed. Was for me to, I had pivoted from a job in the financial sector. I was the marketing director. I pivoted to this job, both because I really believed in the mission, but also it really just fit our little family really well. And then, so I was doing that and really like working with people, incredible people, doing really good work, really loving. I had not necessarily been in this sort of role before where I was kind of like, taking care of everybody and, making sure people feel heard and seen and, but I had never really worked specifically as like an executive assistant before. But that kind of combined with the office manager side of things was a great job for that season. But the reason I, came to y'all is, really trying to figure out, I had taken this role because it's what worked for my family. But, I was realizing that the kids were probably going to get adopted and not stay here. And just realizing like whether they stayed in this home or not, working part-time wasn't necessarily the long-term plan, and kind of needed to just figure out like, wait, what is the plan here at finding a job that would work well for being a foster parent. And also kind of just realizing that my career in some ways had just happened to me without this like intentionality of who am I, what am I good at, who are the people that are doing that thing. And so really wanting to find a job that worked well with foster care, and also just kind of pivot into some like much greater intentionality as far as my career and where I was going and what I wanted to kind of, do with my life. And so, so that's when I came to y'all. And, I probably did the journey a little bit differently than most folks in that I took lots of breaks. For instance, I was really wrestling through, discerning the calling. And then I like went to Europe for a month to hike the Camino, and then came back and kind of like, okay, let's start thinking about this again. So like taking lots of breaks and felt a lot of flexibility in that. But yeah, so that's where I was in this financial job, kind of ended up leaving that to take this job as an executive assistant that was part-time, that was kind of meeting the needs of my family, and then met with you all to really figure out like what is next, what is the plan, how can I best use my gifts and skills to for the glory of God. And so that's kind of where we met.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you laid that out so well with just describing that there were a lot of moving parts, right? You wanted
Yeah,
to prioritize being what's the right thing for family at this point,
yeah,
my family. And in case you missed it, listener, Christina is a foster mom. She is like when I say a woman of the Lord, I mean a woman of the Lord. She is serving these children and does it so beautifully. So it was really special to be able to talk about life needs, right? And then also mirror that with the personal needs. Like I need
yeah,
to be in a job that I feel like I'm contributing and it's aligned. And just goes back to there's a lot of moving parts with that, and our stories are not always and not ever clean, right? Like clean and easy. There's a messiness involved there, and we definitely
yeah.
I enjoyed working through that delightful messiness, right? Of how does this all come together? And
Yeah.
before we get too far into the story, can you just share the role that you're in now, and then we'll unpack the road to get there?
Sure. So my role now is I am a senior administrative assistant with a large Southeast bank chain in the investment banking area. So I basically support a team of almost 30 investment bankers, basically doing what I was describing that I really loved at my previous job, which is, taking care of people, solving problems, really owning problems, finding solutions, but also kind of acting as the morale and to really, making sure people have what they need as far as celebration and being seen and celebrated, and as well as taking care of a lot of the logistics and kind of strategy of behind the scenes. So that's what I'm doing now.
Yeah, go and thank your local admin assistant, everyone. Like they are doing so much behind the scenes, in front of the scenes. When we worked through Clarity together way back in the
Yeah.
beginning, we landed on a path that felt exciting, but and new, but also attainable, which was employee engagement.
Yes.
What felt so, maybe it's obvious, but I want to hear it in your own words. What felt so aligned for you when we discovered that path?
Yeah, I think what felt so kind of aha about that path, but I see now this through line that leads into what I do now, is I really believe that work can be a wonderful, safe place to be, safe, and where you feel known. And we're spending so much time at work really seeing in different jobs that I've been in, how great work culture is created. And so through that kind of goal of employee engagement, really wanting to be part of creating really excellent workplaces for employees. And so that was really the path that I thought I wanted to get into. And so, just having lots of conversations with people in those types of roles, and maybe we'll go into this later, but it, just not getting like a ton of traction into those type of roles. And I think just realizing that, the people that have those sort of roles, I think are kind of starting at more of an HR kind of like grunt work. And then moving into like, I'm not the only person who thinks that that's an awesome job, And so, really having to, I mean, you were saying, really exercising persistence, but also really trying to like learn and pivot as we got more information. And so that's where, we had a pretty big pivot, maybe like, 6 months ago, where I was like, well, I actually think maybe, more of this type of a role, and worked with Tim on your team, who helped me rewrite my resume. Well, I mean, he rewrote it. I helped briefly. And, kind of trying to figure out like, okay, so this jump might actually be in some ways like too big for right now. But also just kind of realizing like this role that I'm holding at my current work, I really am good at it, and I really like it. And I really am doing that thing, that bigger goal, which is, with I would say like my super skills of having a great attitude and having a personality that really welcomes people in, but also, kind of reading the room, seeing, being able to see what is difficult for people, and kind of being able to support people in both those like individual struggles, but also those corporate struggles of, hey, everyone's having a hard time with this. How do we, so realizing like, I actually do that now. And I knew that my current workplace wasn't necessarily the best fit for me long term as far as fostering. And so, and so pivoting and saying, could I do similar to what I'm doing now, but for a company that would work best for being a single parent? And so that's kind of what led to what I'm doing now. And it's been such a joy.
Yeah, so many good things in there that we have to dive into. The first thing that comes up is the persistence element, because like you said yourself, you hit several roadblocks. I'm so curious, what is it that drove that persistence for you? Because I see a lot of people hit roadblocks and it's different for everybody, like what kind of kicks them into gear and gets them through it. So what was it? Because you led with so much persistence. How? What's that mindset?
Yeah, I think that's something that we talked about even on the, weekly calls was, I think sometimes in like the long story that God is writing for us, we're like, I'm only going to be encouraged by this end result, and I feel like through this process, seeing like the blessings along the way for what they were, which is, when people were willing to talk to me, strangers who owe me nothing, were like, having like an hour-long conversation with me and giving me great advice, and weighing in on the questions that I was asking. And I was just like so blessed by that. And so I think like seeing the blessings along the way for what they were, which is this stranger who is being so kind. So I think that really helped with the persistence. And even like seeing, getting an interview as a win, just seeing all of those as wins, instead of like waiting to feel like there's no wins until the very end, I think that was really big. And then taking breaks was also helpful. I think too, keeping an eye on kind of my mental health and realizing like, okay, LinkedIn Premium is nice, but don't look at the analytics like too closely, because I was realizing like it's really, really demoralizing for me to see like I applied for that job and then someone from that company looked at my profile and then they didn't call me back,
Oh,
And
yeah.
so just really kind of being in touch with like looking for a job it's so like vulnerable, and leaves so much room for rejection. And so like taking breaks. But I think what what actually made it encouraging was like the incredible people who gave me a chance, and like gave like created space for me, was really amazing. And I mean, it's pretty incredible. Like the people who did that for me at this job, I get to see them every day, and so that's really cool.
Yeah, that was such a huge breakthrough when we started redefining what success looked like and
Yeah.
seeing those wins and leading with that gratitude. You were always really good about leading with gratitude. Like, I'm so grateful, I got to a final round interview. Or
Mhm.
on the same level, I'm so grateful that somebody accepted my connection request. Two
Yeah.
things that have a lot of different weight to them, but you brought this spirit of gratitude that I really saw help with your persistence, and then also in everything that you just described. And yeah, the kindness of people. If you look for kindness, you will see it. There's a, I don't know if it's a quote or whatever, just a saying, like if you look for evil, evil is all you will see. And
Yeah.
it was the same for kindness as well. So I'm glad that that was so motivating for you and that you could share that. So the other P word was pivot. And
Mhm.
you were so willing to explore different titles and paths while still staying grounded in the kind of work that you wanted to do. So, how did you discern when it was time to adjust your strategy versus just stay the course and keep doing the same thing?
I think I tried to pay attention to when a job would kind of give me that,
Oh, what's that? What are they
it's
doing?
a job, and then I'd say, okay, well, let's look at this. But then I think too, just really when I pivoted to start looking at administrative assistant roles, it was like a little bit of a beta test, like let's make a resume for that. Let's apply for some jobs. And then honestly, people, I couldn't answer the phone fast enough. I mean, it really was this like realization, like, okay, um, my resume looks like a great fit to these type of hiring managers. Okay, that's great to know. Um, and so I think that pivot was, yeah, partially because, the timing, I really had felt from the Lord that something was going to come along by the fall. And that felt a little bit confusing because I'm not really someone that's like, God told me September, but it did kind of feel like he did. And so I was like, okay, so I feel like I'm going to find something by September. But so I was like hustling so hard all of September. And I think that also made me more willing to pivot because I was like, I really am trusting that something is going to come along by September. And so I was just like, hustle, hustle, hustle. And by hustle, I mean to the called career audience. I mean, being in front of my laptop 45 minutes to an hour every night, sending out messages, researching jobs, sending messages to people at those companies.
Mhm.
And the end of September was kind of right around the corner, and I kind of had this internal like, how am I supposed to feel about this? And I just really felt like, well, I know that it's here, but I actually like still
Beautiful.
trust the Lord, and I actually still believe he's doing what he said he's going to do. Um, and then, the beginning of October was here. And then, like, early October, I get a call about this job. And, um, and I had actually applied on September 25th. Um, and so, like, things were in the works. And so I'm like, yes, Lord, I knew it was September. Um, but just really like choosing to trust the Lord, but also like I hustled really, really hard in August and September, kind of trusting for that September date. Because we haven't really talked about this, but the timing of things is I feel really ready to take another placement, but I knew that I couldn't take another placement until I had a job that was going to work well for that. And now, having fostered for a couple of years, I know what makes a job work well for fostering, especially single fostering. And so that's where I was like, I really believe that the Lord wants me to do this and that he's going to provide this. And I'm also going to work my behind off. And so I think that's part of the pivot too, is just like really just having, I don't know, having the willingness to like, this is not for me. This is not for my pride. This is, I want to do good work and bring it into the world, but also this is for this higher purpose of being able to foster again, but also bringing my gifts and skills to a company in a way that really brings honor to the Lord. And so that's where all those things together, I think, just really willing to pivot however I needed to like accomplish those goals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I heard a theme of intuition and commitment in there.
Yeah,
Of you were able to navigate these pivots and see which pivot was worthwhile your energy or worth
yeah,
your energy. And that came from some intuition of seeing the job posting and being like, oh, that's interesting. I need to look
yeah,
into that. And then knowing when it was time to take a more traditional pivot rather than these um, other pivots that we were looking at. So, intuition,
yeah.
where this might be a hard question. So, but I want to know, where does the intuition come from? Where do you think?
Yeah, I think um I really think, I mean, anytime that someone is like, oh, it's hard getting older. And I'm like, no, it's so great. It's a privilege. I think that the older that I get, the more I like know myself and know how to listen to the Lord, but also my gut. And yeah, so I think part of it is, I hope that like as we get older, we are just able to be like, ooh, okay, what would that be like, and so I think that's probably part of it, but I also think um I think that when we do hard things, those like naturally draw us closer to the Lord. And for me, like trying to decide what I was doing next with my career, trying to find a job that I could do well while also being a foster parent, like those things were pretty difficult for me. And so I think that naturally, yeah, I felt like that like grew my intuition in that way, where like no one could do it but me. No one could say like I could be a great fit for that job but me. I'm the one like in my body doing my work. And so I think that hard kind of season like grew that intuition in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well said. And threw a curveball there for you, asking, where does intuition come from? But
Okay.
I think that's wise, and you're um, sharing something that's really important. This like unmeasurable part of the job search and career changes and life changes is intuition, and that also comes from being in lockstep with the Lord, and that was very apparent in your job search. It was always, here's what the Lord's teaching me through this.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people, hopefully not in our program, but a lot of people feel distant from the Lord in these kinds of situations. It feels like he's not answering them and he's not talking to them. And I would really encourage people to prioritize that. Like, what is the Lord doing here? Let me find that. Let me seek that above everything else. And I think intuition starts to really grow there as
Yeah.
well.
Can
So
I speak to that a little bit more?
yes, yes,
Okay. So, um, the other thing I want to say about that is, I feel like the Lord taught me a lot about provision through this, specifically through the story of Ruth. I was studying Ruth with my discipleship group, and I was realizing, like, the story of Ruth, if it happened the way that we want stories to happen in our own lives, would be like the shortest story ever. It would be like, there were some ladies and all their husbands lived long lives, the end, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But the story of Ruth is like these hard things happen, and then people are like figuring out what it looks like to like trust God for provision and to be faithful. And then there's this like long, beautiful story. And so I feel like that was something that the Lord was like teaching me so much through this process, is like, I don't decide whether God is provider based on my experience. God is provider. And so then I look at my experience through that lens. So I think that really, I feel like that transition in my heart happened this summer, which was like a while into this process. But instead of seeing like being devastated when I didn't get a job that I really wanted, instead kind of seeing it as like, well, God is provider. And so if thing isn't being provided, it's not for me. And so I think that was so key and really, honestly, I think this thing that I got out of this process that is probably the most valuable thing, even more than this wonderful job, is like learning more about God being the provider. No one can ever take that from me,
Mm.
And so, yeah, I really feel like that has just been huge. And I think I would just encourage anyone on a job or on a career journey to really like spend some time thinking about like God being provider.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're really hitting it with the P words today: persistence, pivot, provider,
Yeah.
all of it. And so well said. And that's, again, I saw that in your journey, and it's definitely something that has honestly affected the way that I talk to clients, because I saw how impactful it was for you. And even for me, seeing many people through this process, and dang, it does hurt when an opportunity doesn't work out.
Yeah.
And there is grief and disappointment there, but there's an important, I don't even know if it's a reframing or if it's just an elevated truth of, okay, but God is provider, right? It's
Yeah.
you're looking at it with clear lenses
Yeah.
when you focus on that truth, and it promotes that persistence, right? That we've
Mhm.
been talking about. So
Yeah.
there was an important intuition part. The other part was commitment. And I see that especially in this September part of your story.
Yeah.
All right, God, I'm showing up. And I have a phrase that I use a lot. I don't know where it came from, but well, it came from Kelsey. I don't know where she got it from. God wants to see our effort, not our earning. So we're not doing these things to earn from Him and in transaction with Him, but He wants to see our effort, because things like this happen, the
Mhm.
character refinement and the things that are greater than a job change. So
Mhm.
that commitment was something that I also wanted to highlight that really worked for you. It was the intuition and the commitment pairing together to help with that persistence to get the job done. So, can you speak a little bit about, because we talked about pivoting and how you landed back at this admin assistant, and we actually really haven't talked about this before, but what was that like to be like to realize, okay, it's pretty much the same job, a very, very similar job, just in a new environment. Was there disappointment attached to that when the career pivot wasn't as like grand as we initially thought it would be?
I actually, I don't think there was disappointment. I think it was more like, it felt like, oh, I'm going to be able to step into this and do really great work from day one. And that feels great. And also, I will have capacity for what I'm doing at home because I'm not learning a whole new set of skills. Um, the other thing is, this role that I'm doing at this incredible company, um, the people who do this role do it until they retire. Like no one leaves this job until
That
they
was
retire.
my
Like
favorite thing that you told me. I was like,
I
that's
was
a
like,
good job.
green flag, such a green flag.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, just I think looking at it in this, like, I can do this really well from day one. This is a job that has longevity. And seeing the person who did it before me do it for, I mean, she was at this company for 40 years, but she worked in this department for 20 years. And so seeing, I think there's something about maybe our generation that um, we want kind of like fancy things fast, you know?
Mhm.
But seeing like, oh, okay, I actually feel like that seems incredible to me. You know, being able to like do really good work for, I mean, the leader of my team, my boss is an awesome guy, runs his team really well, very honorable. And being able to like seeing that as like the goal of like doing really good work for a really long time. And I think the goal just changed a little bit. The goal just changed. And seeing that, like, I can see the wisdom in God changing that goal, you know, in just capacity wise. And, even seeing that, like, because I'm pivoting into something that's similar to what I've done, um, I am already like seeing all these ways that I can add value to the team. I really loved the podcast that you and Kelsey did recently, where you talked about all the ways that you can like really honor the Lord at your work. And one of them was like really owning things and like adding value and, being true to your word and doing things when you say, all of those. And so being able to do all of those, but also like make life better for the team and investing in like bringing value to this team. So no, I don't think that, I think there are things about this job that I wouldn't have known to want, if that makes sense.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, like,
Mhm.
oh, a job that like I could do this for 20 years and like build these relationships and trust with the people around me and, you know, um, and like have lots of longevity and then also have capacity for life. And like, ugh, I wouldn't have even thought about that, and so that has been really cool.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. There are things about this job I wouldn't have known to want.
Yeah.
That's the quote because the reason I asked that question is it's actually one of the most common questions I get talking to people who are considering coaching, where they have this big fear of what if I go through your whole program and I find out I'm called, they come in as a teacher, okay? And I'm called
Mm-hmm.
out, I go through your whole program and I find out I'm called to be a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I totally understand the fear because if you want to leave a position, but you feel so stuck in it, there's so
Yeah.
many complicated emotions tied up into that.
Mm.
First thing to remember is that we do have free will. Um, and that's a gift from the Lord. But the other thing to remember is what you just said. There are things that we don't even know yet that you want in your job and in your career. And we don't even know
Yeah.
things that you're looking for in a job and a career. And maybe you do come through this whole program and you end up landing a job that looks like the job you started with, but you're coming to that with greater satisfaction and excitement and fervor for the role that you didn't have before,
Yeah.
not the fault of anyone at past companies. It was just life, right? And life,
Yeah.
how life was lifing, to put
Yeah.
it simply.
But I also think, I was thinking about this too, that, you know, even though I think going through the process of figuring out, you know, what my super skills are and, all of that and figuring out what job I was looking for, I think that like above the category of like job you're looking for is like the big things that I uniquely bring to a job. And I think that the reality is, like, when I was meeting with the people at this job, they want those things. They want those main things that I bring to a job, that I solve problems, that I have a great attitude, that I love taking care of people, and that I'm a delight to work with. And so, and like they want those things. And those are the most important things that I want to bring to a job. I want to make a work an amazing place to be. And so, and I mean, I'm only 2 months in to this role. So, hopefully what I've been able to bring so far is just the tip of the iceberg of the value that I'll be able to bring, because every day I'm learning new things that I don't know how to do. But I'm like, let's learn them. But I think that's, I think the reality is, like, even if you start at one place, you don't end up back there. You end up at this new place where the key aspects of what you're looking for. And like, I am crystal clear on the unique value that I bring to a workplace. And so that is so important, and those are the key things that I would bring on a macro scale in like an employee engagement, or on like a micro scale, creating that, for a team. And so, I think that, I learned so much about myself, and the actual like job title, it feels like, oh, I got exactly where I was heading. And the job titles, they're like, oh, well, could have been this, could have been this, could have been this, but this was like the job that the Lord had for me.
Oh, beautifully said. We get really caught up on job titles, but it's really, what are the core functions of the job?
Yeah.
And wow. Okay. So I want to get into the nitty gritty a little bit, about how you land this job and unveil that story. So can I just ask you to take it away?
Yes. Okay. So this job came up, and I, with every job like this, I would, message like 10 to 15 people at that company. And I would try to look for people who are like in similar departments, but also, I would just like do it. So I messaged maybe 10 or 15 people at my big bank. And one gentleman writes back and he says, hey, you should talk to so-and-so. He knows the person who's retiring really well. I said, great. So then I message that person and say, hey, guy one said I should talk to you. I'd love to talk to you about this role. I know you're familiar with the role and with the person who's leaving. Can we connect? And he was like, yes, absolutely. So we schedule a phone call. We have like an hour-long phone call. I'm asking questions, off the list that y'all provide. He is like being very kind. I love it that, I'm hearing all these green flags, like the person who's leaving is leaving because she's retiring. She's been there for many years. Love that. She's not like a 20 something who's like crying at night,
Yes.
This is someone who has been happily at this job for a while. He's sharing about the team. Both of these guys seem like very, very kind. And so then we have a great conversation, and then I ask him to refer me. And he's like, yes, of course. So he refers me, and then really for the next couple of weeks, it's like interview. I mean, maybe 2.5 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, but it's like I go through multiple interviews, and then at the end I have like an interview with 6 people. So it was like a couple hour interview, and it was like 2 people and then 2 other people and then 1 person and then 1 person. And it was all like pretty quick, but each conversation I'm having, it's feeling like, okay, I really like these people. I really like the culture. I feel like I could bring something. I could bring a lot of value. And then got an offer and started like, I mean, really exactly 2 weeks later. And what's really cool is now being on this side of things, like I see both of those guys. One of the guys is on my team and he's so delightful. If he sees this, he's going to be like, oh, but he's the best. Um, and and then the other guy, the guy had said, hey, you should talk to him. I see him from time to time. He's on a different team. But I was talking to that first guy the other day, and I was kind of bragging to this other administrative assistant. I was like, so-and-so, he helped me get the job here. And and I find out that when he got that message from me, he like looked at my profile and then talked to a couple of different administrative assistants, including that woman, to say like, hey, what makes a person really good at this? And he was really thoughtful about like thinking about who I am, thinking about, what makes someone good at the role. And so he did some research and some like thoughtful investigation, and then talks to the guy on my team about it. And then he, does some more research. He sends my resume on. So he doesn't just refer me, but he's like talking to them about me. These are strangers. They're
Beautiful.
strangers.
Wow.
And then, when I ended up getting the job, I was, getting trained by the gal who was retiring. And she said, it meant a lot to me that you were reaching out to them um, on LinkedIn and email, because not a lot of people would do that, and that said a lot to me about your tenacity and what you would bring to this team. And she said, she was like, when we got your resume, I was so sick of looking at resumes, and I was just like, I do not want to do this anymore. And so, getting that referral to her was like such a gift. And so I really see so much in there about, and really they were like really nervous about losing this person who had served their team for so long, who had been like the mom to the team and also the problem solver. And so it's very cool to see like the incredible kindness of those two guys. But then also, I think we talk in the program about, we really need to be thinking about like, I'm here to solve problems. I'm here to bring value. These people have like a problem they need solved. And like, maybe I can do that. And so it's really cool to see like, that's me. I'm the person that's like here to fill this role and to, step into this real felt need of theirs, this problem of theirs, which is they're going to be left without, this really important person. And so, yeah, it's really, I mean, the sending those messages, it just is so fun to have seen the backside of that, where like not just were they willing to like, oh sure, I'll send you on, like they were like doing research. And I
That's
know,
so good. That's
I
so
know,
good.
so sweet. It's so sweet. And so yeah, it's really cool to see like these people's kindness, um but then also seeing the, I was filling a need by being proactive and, getting my name and my resume out there in a way that was different. And, it's exhausting. They get so many resumes, and so I really like the process worked. And because I had been doing the process for a little bit, I was like, yeah, just do the next thing. Yeah, totally. And so, yeah, it's still so encouraging to me to think about those, 20 something guys, like, you know, giving their time behind the scenes to
Yeah.
help me get a job.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I Christina, I'm about to cry. Like seriously. It's so meaningful to
This-
me to
yeah.
hear this whole story come together and also be able to share this as encouragement for people, because people get really bogged down by the outreach and
Yeah.
one application after another, after another, after another. And it's a lot. It's a lot of effort. I
Mhm.
absolutely. But when it works and it all comes together, I mean, I don't even feel like I need to ask this, but for the record, were all the messages that you sent over your entire job search worth it to get into this job?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
This is like a career, like I yeah, I want to be doing this for a really long time. So,
Mm.
um yeah. And this job, it, the other, I don't think we've talked about this, but the other like just cool things that have happened in the last couple weeks are um I've like gotten connected to some other foster parents in different branches of our bank
Cool.
through, and so we just had our first meeting of like um foster parents who work at our bank, and so we're like, we want to start like an affinity group so that we can help our teams to serve foster kids and come together to like help each other to you know utilize, basically like to connect the bank with foster parents. And anyway, it's just it's been so like encouraging, and the bank really is like so affirming of like serving in the community. And it really, it's like I knew that this was going to be great, and then these little things keep happening that are like, oh, even greater.
Even greater.
Yeah.
And also, to put your whole job search into perspective, it had to take that long because Homegirl had to retire.
Yeah.
She had to retire that because spots don't open up on that team ever,
Ever.
ever.
That's so true.
Yeah,
That's so
and
true.
the story of people talking behind the scenes and them working
Yeah.
behind the scenes, actually, something, an objection, if you will, I get, or a question I get about
Yeah.
outreach a lot is it weird to message a bunch of people? Are they going to be talking? And my response is, I sure hope they are. That's the
Yeah.
goal. I want them to be talking about you. I want them to look over the cubicle and be like, "Who did you get a message from this Christina girl?"
Yeah.
And because that's intriguing. That warrants a click on the profile. That warrants a
Yeah.
conversation to the hiring manager or someone on the team
Yeah.
or whatever it is. So make waves. Don't be afraid to make waves. I think that was that I know that was something that you were so fearless in that, in sending the messages and just moving on, like, okay, didn't work, next one, didn't hear back, next one. And
Mhm.
seeing it as I saw you had a real motivation of just like meeting people and getting to
Yeah.
know them and seeing how I can help them. And that attitude has brought you into this incredible job. And I will throw this in there. She's making more money. She's making more money. Like a good
Yes.
amount of more money.
Yes.
So that is
Yes.
always a nice cherry on
Yes.
top.
Yeah.
Is there anything that maybe if there's somebody listening to this who maybe they're thinking that's great for her, but that will never work for me, or that company's an anomaly, like I'll never find something like that, or maybe someone who's just stuck and having a hard time with the persistence and resilience of it all.
Mm.
Talk to that crowd. What would you say to that person who's feeling that way?
Yeah. I think get connected with other job seekers, because it really is, it can be pretty demoralizing. Um so get connected with other job seekers in some way, or support, like with Called Career. Um and then just realizing like hardly anybody is getting jobs the way that they used to. So you really have to like use connections and just like put your pride by the door, and try and get connected to anyone you can. Because I mean, even in this job, there's just like this stack of resumes, and they're like, ooh.
Yeah.
um and so yeah, that I think, being out of the box. I mean, I was making videos and sending, but actually those videos like led to some pretty good interviews. But I would make little videos like this that I would send, to people that I wanted to interview with, and just saying, hey, this is Christina Nichols, and, trying to like utilize my super skills, because it's really hard to tell what someone is like from a resume. But then, I think, trust the Lord. Okay. Yes. Trust the Lord. But I also think like trust the Lord with like, this is such a big part of our day and our week and our month and our year. And like, I feel like what happened to me was because of life stuff, I would just end up getting that like next job that I wasn't like thinking about the path of things or what would be like a really good fit for me. And so I think like trusting that the Lord like made us certain ways for a reason, and that like things can change. I think like trusting the Lord that things can change. And I think that can be so hard because you're working full time and maybe you have kids and you're like, you just got to keep going and doing, but you know that it's like not quite right, And I think the beginning could be just like trusting the Lord that things could change, And now I'm in a job that, you look at the benefits and it's like, this was made for foster parents. There's like tons of sick time and there's like special, there really is like, it's great. It's great. And the job itself, I feel like I'm able to bring a lot of value. And so just like trust the Lord that things can change, and that he like made us to do good and to do, to like be who we are in our workplace and at home. And so, I think it can be easy to feel really stuck. And it takes a lot of effort to like get unstuck, but I'm so glad that I did.
Amen to that. Christina, I could listen to you talk about anything all day long, and especially your career path. And it's been such an honor to be by your side through that and to be a witness to how God moved and what God did in all of it. I have loved chatting with you during this time. I know that it is encouraging people, and I pray this goes far and lots of people get to hear what you have to say, because I think it's very important. Thank you so much for being here and for trusting us and working with us.
Thank you. Appreciate all you did to encourage me along the way.
Oh, amazing. Okay. Bye, Christina.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. To get an even more meaningful head start into your calling, head to thecalledcareer.com, where my fellow career coach Audrey and I have created a whole suite of free resources and tools to help you get clear and get a job today. For those who are definitely ready to land a job or start a business in the next 6 to 12 months, we're here to help you biblically and practically discern your calling through coaching, reflection, and deep market research. Identify the job that's aligned with it, even if you currently have no idea what you want. Rebrand your resume and LinkedIn to translate your background to appeal to your future boss. P.S. We take this off your plate and do this for you. Also, we'll teach you how to land referrals and get attention from leadership through networking. Again, if that makes you nervous, we have these emails and LinkedIn messages literally written for you, so you don't have to sweat. We're also here to give you unlimited interview practice, so you're prepared to address every elephant in the room and knock selling yourself out of the park. Then we'll round out with helping you negotiate your salary so you land thousands more. Just so you know, recent clients have gotten $8,000 to $50,000 salary increases, even though they were totally non-traditional candidates. That's because we specialize in helping non-traditional career pivoters land jobs they're ecstatic to serve in. It takes work, but we're here to see you through until the end, when we're celebrating that day that you send me an email in all caps and you say, Kelsey, I got the job. Then you could be on the podcast. But I'll be here until then, keeping you accountable and encouraged by meeting with you literally until you land the job you want, even if that's up to 6 months from now within our program. Apply to join at thecalledcareer.com, and I'll see you next week here at Answer the Call. Bye for now.